This episode of Skirmish Supremacy is brought to you by Reformation Brewery, the official beer of your game night. Right, his drawers are fixed.
I hate it when they get up in a knot.
That's why I just prefer to work without pants.
Well, you can do that now that you work from home.
Exactly, it's wonderful.
You and Dana can work without pants. Very interesting.
Well, you know, office nepotism. All right, folks, welcome back to episode 110 of Skirmish Supremacy. Holy crap, it is 110, isn't it, Nick?
It is.
Okay, so I can count.
You can. Actually, it was funny. I was Dan Adam had me on Paint All the Minis the other night, and we were kind of talking about, that stuff, being on that, and then, it was like, it doesn't even count the other shows that we've done.
Yeah.
Or the special edition shows that we've put out, or...
No, special edition shows and extras, I don't even count them anymore. I'm just like, yeah, we're doing this. But anyway, tonight we are joined by Cory, who is back from the Witchborn to talk about the Kickstarter that actually will launch Thursday, the 19th, which is the Dark Elves, otherwise known as the Daughters of Twilight. Cory, how are you doing tonight, man?
Oh, awesome. Glad to be back. And we got
you on
this time. Normally, Nick doesn't make it to these Raising the Witchborn and other podcasts, so extra fun.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes down to one of those things to where it depends upon scheduling. I know the last time we did one that was a full-on Witchborn, I think you were still stuck at work, Nick, the last time we did it. So.
Yeah, which one was that? I forget which one that was, but yeah, I remember being stuck because you had been talking about it, and and then I was like, all right, tonight's the night, and then somebody broke something.
Welcome to the world of securities, but anyway. Awesome. So tonight, yes, we're going to be talking about a new expansion that's coming out for the Witchborn, which is the Daughters of Twilight, aka the Dark Elves, which are all a bunch of sneaky, dirty, vile little shits. But to get this thing started...
They're all good guys.
Oh, yeah, huh? Yeah, I saw their stats. So anyway, before we get this started with the Daughters of Twilight, let's kind of take a little trip through the Wayback Machine and talk about what the Witchborn is and your success with Enter Perdition and getting into stores and kind of what you're doing to move forward. So we'll talk about the core game before we jump into Daughters of Twilight for the listeners that aren't familiar with the full game.
So funny sound effects since you said Wayback Machine.
I did. Thank you, Nick. This is why we pay ourselves the big bucks of exactly $0 to produce this thing.
Exactly.
We can't even afford a soundboard, folks.
No, we just have Nick make weird noises. So yeah,
well,
let's.
As you know, Enter Perdition released at Gen Con last year, and it's really started to take off. People are starting to catch on. What really makes it special is it's a campaign-based game, so your characters continue to improve, level up, earn new treasures, and that's where you really get attached. But of course, there's those nasty Witchborn running around, and they have a tendency to want to try and eat your characters as well. So you got to watch out for them.
Tim knows all about that.
Shut up. Anyway.
Don't throw rocks at Witchborn.
They will eat you.
Side tangent, I got my revenge on that exact same one when we were at Adepticon. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, Cory, let's talk a little. So, like, you were starting to talk about the Witchborn. Let's talk about the setting and kind of what you did with it.
Yeah. In the game setting, it's post-apocalyptic. Couple of years passed when people started dying. Their bodies were inhabited by these Witchborn spirits. they come back smarter, faster, stronger than they were in life with a lust for blood. So they're kind of these zombie vampires. And you can imagine as more and more people die, more and more Witchborn appear, they've just shredded the world. And so your warriors band together in these little groups we call war clans. And the 6 initial factions, if you want to call them that, were the dwarves, who are your heavily armored little tanks, your surface-dwelling elves, which have a lot of innate magic, the guild, which are, we call them, for lack of a better term, ninja rat men, a lot of martial arts and samurai-type weapons, a lot of fun. The Norn, who are human barbarians with some shape-changing abilities. The Paladins, which is an order sworn to destroy the Witchborn. And then everybody's favorite, the Orcs. They just love to smash things.
Damage, and more damage. So yeah, we've played a couple games of the Witchborn here. Unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to really record any yet for Skirmish Supremacy, just trying to get everybody's to get the hang of it. And the last few times we played, Nick has won all of the games with his damn paladins, just riding around on his horse, grabbing crap and leaving the board.
Nice job, Nick.
I mean, horses are fast.
Yeah.
It was a good switch from dwarves. We're slow.
Exactly. Once you guys get into some of the expansion adventures like Asylum, the world's last standing bar, you might want to go back to the dwarves because dwarves don't get drunk nearly as easily.
Yeah, we're still looking at that one. I'm trying to figure out how to make Asylum a legitimate drinking game.
Oh, I think it's easy to do. Whenever the app tells you
take a drink,
you drink.
Oh, see, there you go.
Prost.
It could be a really short night.
I don't know.
Tim can put him away.
Well, I mean, his significant other has definitely tested our constitution.
Yes. Coming from Wisconsin, beer does not have unless as you think it does.
The Asylum app, how many it takes to get a drink? Well, I went through 2 without a drink. There we go. You're drinking already.
So number 3 is a drink.
And that's right. 2. You have to take 2 drinks on that one. Next one's a single drink. So that's another thing about the original Witchborn game that everybody likes is it has a storytelling of a role-playing game, but you don't need a game master. The app takes care of that for you, and you guys just pass the phone or the iPad or the tablet, whatever you've got, back and forth, and whoever's not making a discovery or who's ever not being affected by the app will kind of read to the other guy to explain what he sees and hears. And that'll cover, discoveries and wounds and, those horrible oopses where your pants fall down and everything else along the way.
Or accidentally shoot the closest. Yeah. It gets annoying.
Yeah.
Shoot the closest friendly model. Okay, great. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, roll better next time.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot to do in the game as far as the leveling up of your war clan, getting new gear, finding artifacts. There's tons and tons and tons of different artifacts and special things within the game. You could play the game multiple times in the same adventure, and yes, okay, the premise might be the same, but it doesn't really get old because of the fact that the app itself kind of keeps reconstituting the different things that are in there, so that way every time you play, it's something different.
Change and your opponents change too. So it's really
exactly. And then, of course, right now you currently have how many adventures? Is it?
Out now, there are 5. There's Enter Perdition and then the 4 expansions. This summer, Nightfall is coming, and that one's going to be fun. You protect the last standing garrison from a Witchborn army. And so a
Witchborn army.
Yes, a Witchborn army. And so it gets a little bigger and a little badder. and it's actually a prequel for another adventure, which will probably be released in 2019. So,
okay,
it's
excellent. And then, of course, with those, you have multiple different games that are played on the different maps. So, like Enter Perdition, there is the typical multiplayer, we all fight to get the treasure, winner takes all kind of feeling. But you have a couple alternates that are in there as well to change it up. So you can almost have like a traditional game master.
Yeah, it's some people just like to play cooperative and try to build that option into the game. And so in the case of Enter Perdition, you team up with a buddy or a pair of buddies, whatever you want, against somebody who's going to play the game master. And he gets to play the Witchborn Centaurs of the Plains and just have a lot of fun with a incredibly powerful war clan. And you got to try and fend him off while still achieving your mission. So it gets really interesting that way as well. And I have lost many a paladin being eaten to those Witchborn Centaurs. So not my favorite to walk in unprepared.
Fun times. And then, of course, there is the Asylum, which we mentioned, which is a big old bar brawl.
Yep. And then the one after that is the Wandering Forest, which is probably the just got some of the funniest encounters in it. But you start off starving, which isn't really funny, and accidentally eat the other war clan's venison. And they hadn't realized when they hung the carcasses up to cure that the trees in the forest walk. And so you've got a war clan chasing you down as trees are moving and trying to block you, and you're trying to escape the Wandering Forest in safety. And oh yeah, there's a evil will-o-wisp that lives there too who's trying to kill you. So it makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, really, everything in this world is just trying to kill you.
Pretty much.
Even better.
It is very much a Tim style game. Everything is trying to kill you. Well, unfortunately for Tim, it usually is killing him,
including Nick is killing him.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that real quick. Last year at Adepticon, it was the very first time I got a chance to play one of the future upcoming war clans called the Wolven. It's not a terribly big secret that you're working on the Wolven. I mean, I've posted pictures of it numerous times on Talk Witchborn and all these various groups, and I'm very public about the fact that I'm very biased in how the Wolven are turning out. But the first time I played them, I was set up to do okay in the game. I was kind of off to one side of the map, kind of able to do my own thing. First thing I encounter is a Witchborn. Of course, Wolven having this trait called Rancor, which means that everybody basically hates me. The Witchborn just outright attacks me, and I spend basically the entire game trying to fight this thing as it's running away from me. And of course, I'm too stubborn to not fight it, so I'm throwing rocks at it as it's swimming away in the river. And then it gets out of the river, beats up 2 of my people, scars one of them permanently, kills my leader. My leader comes back as a Witchborn, starts killing our buddy Tyler's stuff. Well, the whole time, Nick is just over there laughing maniacally at everything that's happening to me. And I pretty much had to scrap that entire war clan. Almost everybody in it was either permanently injured or dead.
Yeah, so I do want to clarify one point in there. The Witchborn straight up ran away from Tim. Tim followed it, not compelled to follow it, but follows it and throws rocks at it as it's swimming away from him. And actually straight towards me.
Yes.
So, he tried to sound like the victim there, but he threw rocks at it.
I was a victim of my own making.
There we go.
And did you learn an important lesson, Tim? That's the real question there.
No.
Nope.
Just got bigger rocks next time.
Yeah, basically, that's what it came down to. I mean, even the last game, so it was funny, this last game that we played at Adepticon, whereas you, Tim, and myself, I was playing my Wolven, that same Witchborn that popped up, that I beat up like almost immediately, was the one that beat the hell out of me last Adepticon. So I was like, no, it's going down. I threw 5 Wolven at it dead one round. I was like, nope, this ain't happening.
And that's part of the fun of the game. I mean, you were playing a much higher level war clan as well, too. So you had some games in with those guys, had better equipment, better armor, and you made easy work of it.
Face my nightmares, yeah, basically. But it's definitely fun as you start leveling up and gaining more stuff. And it's always funny the first few times that you talk to people, being an experienced player playing the game, you talk about all this awesome stuff your war clan can do, and they make a level 0 war clan, which is always hilarious to me because they're always like, what do you mean your war clan can do all this stuff, but I'm basically stuck with like pointed sticks and a piece of leather for armor. So
yeah, really gives you the incentive to play, right?
Exactly.
But this is Tim's like, oh, but mine's starting at the same level. It's a level 0 too, but I have all this stuff because
Wolven.
Yeah, it's like and I got a broken pointy stick.
Yeah, and that's part of the war clan rosters kind of track your levels so that you can kind of balance those out. So when your friends are not as skilled as you are, they get some incentives before the game.
Yeah, but this is Tim. He doesn't do that.
Kind of skip over those rules.
It wasn't a matter of skipping over. It's like we all jumped in and I was like, oh, right. You guys should all have some healthy drafts and stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They should get some gold to buy some armor and some weapons to protect themselves against you.
It was funny. The last time we played, I sat back on one edge of the board because that was when Rob and Nathan and Nick came over. And I just let those three like fight it out right in the middle of the plains. I'm like, I am not getting involved in that at all.
You sniped the Jesus out of the rats.
Yeah, exactly. I stayed back. I wanted no part of that whatsoever.
And then Nathan had an ogre or whatever throwing rocks from the opposite side of the board, the opposite corner, at me.
Yeah, he just basically walked onto the board with a living catapult and was just like, I'm just going to keep chucking rocks.
Sooner or later, even a blind squirrel finds his nuts,
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we could talk on and on about Enter Perdition and a lot of stuff like that. So we've mentioned the Asylum. We've mentioned the Wandering Forest. You also have some for the folks that obviously they're going to play through those a couple of times that start getting into the higher level ones. And these ones are really challenging. You really have to know what you're doing. And those ones currently are which ones?
Wailing Citadel and the Searchers. This is the first time you're really going to face a lot of Witchborn at once. And that can be brutal. So we recommend your starting war clan is 125 point value, and we recommend you're at least 300 before you take on Wailing Citadel. Because it's a wedding ceremony that went horribly wrong in the Wailing Citadel. Paladins were there. They all got slain, and they're Witchborn now. All the elves that were there are elven shades now, so like ghosts. And they all haunt the Wailing Citadel. And your mission, should you try to accept it, is to find the wedding gifts that were never exchanged. So you
don't die.
Yeah, you're searching the Citadel, and you have the potential of getting mauled from every direction. And, oh, by the way, you don't get to start with all your warriors on the battle map at the same time. You only find the additional ones beyond your first 4 as you make discoveries on the map. So there's an incentive to move fast and find the rest of your guys because you don't want to go up against the horde of Witchborn with your initial 4, no matter how tough they are.
Yeah, you'll get swarmed quick. And then, of course, there's the Searchers, which that one is, I don't want to call it epic level, but that one's pretty rough.
Yeah, it's another challenging one, but the rewards are always better in these too. In that one, there's a girl who is reputed to have the power to raise the dead. And some kidnappers have taken her into the wastelands to the old tomb of Ra-Aman, and they're going to try and raise him from the dead, which would be bad for everyone. So your job, like the old John Wayne movie, is to find the girl and get her back home safe.
Yeah, and that may or may not work out in your favor, depending upon how that's going to go.
Yep. But there's a nice mashup with Egyptian mythos and a lot of stuff. You may or may not see a mummy in there, and some Anubis-headed warriors and some coatls and other fun things.
Gross. I mean, I can't wait to play it. It sounds great, because I think that one you were saying is you want a war clan that's about 400 points or more in order to play.
Yeah. There are things that could take you out really quickly, so you figure by the time a war clan's 400, they've probably got 15, 20 games in, and they're going to have healing, magic, and ways to protect themselves. Better armor, better weapons, and you want to be ready. You've also learned a lot of the strategies.
Well, you hope anyway, unless you just do like I do and just throw yourself into the fray face first and see what happens.
Hey, you're a Viking at heart.
Well, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
But anyway, so Nightfall is coming out this summer.
Yeah, that one has been long in development, and it's one of those things. It just wasn't working. And I finally realized it was just too many models on the board. So I came up with a solution to lower the number of models on the board, and that really speeds up gameplay. I don't want games to go 6 hours. Once you're good, I want it to go a couple hours, maybe 3 hours max, because it's fun on say we take a Friday night. Sometimes we can get in 2 or 3 games, and so you can start to really see your guys level up and grow, and that's what makes it fun. So
nice. And then, of course, the big thing that you're doing starting tomorrow is the Daughters of Twilight. We're finally getting around to talking about a new expansion with a whole new rule set for a new war clan. Yeah,
this is a long time in the making. Everybody's like, why didn't you bring out Dark Elves right away? And to be honest, they were unbalanced. They were too powerful. And so it was, how do you get them in line? And I had a couple false starts, but we've probably got, I'd say in the 300 to 400 game territory with them. And we've had some people play 50 games with the same war clan. So we feel like we finally got them balanced with everything else. And that's
right. So, of course, they are dark elves, so they're fae, but they're much more twisted than what we're used to seeing in like the standard elves. So what really makes the dark elves different from the regular elves that we see in the base game?
Yeah, they're going to be overlapping a little bit, but I wanted to push them as far apart as I could where they're still considered, like they're all, elves. And the Dark Elf story really starts like at the beginning of time. And everybody had their job in all the elven groups, and it was to take care of the flora and the fauna. And the Dark Elves were in charge of death, the creatures that help decay and that kind of stuff, and the insects and the carrion eaters and all that kind of stuff. But their goddess, Erishtea, actually killed the elf who was supposed to be in charge of that. And for that, they were forever banned. Normally an elf, when they die after hundreds of years of serving the earth, they go on to the other world. Dark elves are forever banned, and they become these ghostly shades that just are doomed to wander the earth when they die. And their hope, they've kind of built their enclaves underground in their cave cities and everything. And now that the Witchborn have just started to ravage the surface world, they're being sent on missions to go to the surface world, and their hope is if they can eradicate the Witchborn, they will be given a chance at their afterlife in the other world as well. And so it's really a story of redemption for them. But a lot of them are scumbags, so it's going to make it even harder.
Yeah. So right now, just from what I'm seeing, so keep in mind, folks, I am looking at some early stuff. And Cory, about how far along on the book that I'm looking at now would you say is this close to complete? Is this pretty much the one that's going to be coming out, or there's still a few tweaks?
Yeah, it's about 90% there. If you've got
okay, cool.
Today, so it hasn't been through proofreading, and there's still some graphics that are wrong and that kind of stuff. But it'll probably be finished by the end of the Kickstarter.
Cool. So there's two different paths that you could take for your dark elves. From what I'm seeing, there's the Enclave or Renegade. So how do those differ?
So the Enclave are the traditionalists, right? They're these just spiteful, horrible, female-led war clans that, all answer to the goddess Erishtea. And part of their problem is that they've got to pay these tithes to their Enclave. And so you're going to have a little less gold, but the treasures and the equipment that Dark Elves have access to is just overwhelming. That's part of the reason why they were overpowered. So if you can get in the Enclave, you're the traditionalist and you're paying your tithes, but you have access to all this rare stuff. If you're the Renegades, you've kind of broken with the old patterns. You've become a surface dweller, and you don't have access to all that rare equipment, but you also are not paying the tithes. So there's kind of a argument back and forth about which is better. One of the other benefits of being a renegade is all Dark Elves start off sunblind, which is a huge agility penalty at the beginning of the game. There's tons of ways to get rid of it and to overcome it, but renegades can overcome it pretty easily. They just play 9 games and they adapt to the surface world and they're fine. So it's kind of a give and take. And I've had beta testers make passionate arguments of I would never be anything but a renegade. And I've had beta testers make passionate arguments I would never be anything but Enclave. And I've played them both, and they're both awesome. They're a lot of fun. It's just a different approach.
Right, exactly. And of course, just like the typical elves in the game, they have the ability to become fairies.
Yeah.
Or dark fae.
The dark fae. And in this game, the dark fae are some pretty exotic stuff. I've actually had people say, I really don't want to have that guy in my war clan, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's like,
right.
It's a scumbag who eats. He's a carrion eater. He's going to eat anybody who gets wounded if he can. So yeah. So I can give you an idea. I've got my little binder here. Obviously the book isn't printed, so. But there's the classic Black Annis, who I don't know if you know your folklore. She looks like an old crone. And as you try and help her in the forest or whatever, she turns into this huge, monstrous creature that I actually got one painted there. But she's a feaster, and she likes to make trophies out of parts of people that she's slain. So you don't want to mess with her. There's the Bodak, who's the boogeyman. He's the guy in your nightmares and has the ability to turn into a shadow and creep across the ground. There's the Bogart. We're hitting all the carrion eaters early on, really strong and has the ability to almost go invisible, but stinks to high heaven, so even his comrades can't get close.
I am highly insulted, but continue.
That is true. But Nick, you must have been the white sheep of the Bogart family.
Or it's actually pronounced Bogart and, spelled differently.
That is true. There's the kayak, who's the mother of winter. She's a giant with can make tempests and have ice shoot out of her fingertips. One of the challenging ones is the fetch. She's a mimic and can take over other people and other war clans. There's your typical goblins. Obviously, they're going to be the most common. But if you roll really well on the bell curve, you won't end up with any goblins. The hobgoblins, a little tougher. There's the marrow and the marrow male, the swimming evil ones. The red cap's the really nasty little guy. He has to wound somebody every game, and he cleans his weapon with the tip of his cap, and he collects that blood, and that gives him extra anima or extra strength in the game. And then the last is the Slua, which is just a horrible, horrible, undead, almost like Smokey type figure that drains energy from opponents. So a lot of interesting choices there, and you never know what you get until you create your war clan. You could end up with just the common, night cloaks and vindicators and the typical elvish-looking characters, but, chances are you're going to end up with a couple of those dark fae.
Yeah, so as far as the basic clans or the basic members of the clan go, you've got the Morning, Way Warden, Night Cloak, Vindicator, Soul Weaver.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say they're sort of a female-dominated war clan, so all the positions of leadership and the more valuable warriors are going to be females, starting with your leader, who's the Morrigan, all the way down, to the more common Night Cloak. The Way Wardens, they're just trying to make a name for themselves to get recognized, but they don't start with some of those great powers that some of the other ones do. Even Night Cloaks can seep through stone. And the Soul Weaver we didn't mention is a real vile creature. That is the Spider Centaur. It's usually a male who's gone through this horrible ritual to bond his upper torso with a giant spider abdomen in hopes of, getting some street cred, I guess. And of course, they're incredible fighters in the game, but most expensive warrior that you can get on your list.
Just a little terrifying. That's all.
Just a little terrifying, and very fast, very agile, and very strong.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I mean, I do, but just looking at some of the stuff that these guys have right off the bat, they're really good. So defense is up there. It's in the 4s and 5s, which is really, really decent for a lot of people. Obviously, being elves, their agility's up there. These ones are a little bit higher on the psyche than what I was thinking. Especially your Morgan, because she is a leader and a spellcaster all rolled into one.
Yep.
Obviously, the Soul Weaver's got a psyche of 1 because it's kind of dumb. And then they're all speed 7. So these are 2 paces slower than most of your average horses.
Yeah, it's they're really quick, and with a speed increase someplace in the game, not only will they get faster, but they'll get more attacks per turn. So it's something to think of tactically. The other thing is they can wear bulkier armor, drop down to maybe a 6 speed, and not affect their combat ability at all. So, and when you get into some of their equipment, they've got some great stuff that you want them to get.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit before we dive into the equipment, the skills that they have, because they've actually got some pretty neat skills. this is where they really start to separate themselves in a lot of cases from the elves themselves.
Yeah. Players that don't know the game, this won't mean as much to them as people who do, but they have a skill called Artificer. And basically what that allows them to do is shape adamant. And adamant is this sort of almost like living material. It's malleable, but once it's formed into a weapon or armor, it's unbreakable. All the surface elves have forgotten how to do this. And only the dark elves remember. So they've got tons of adamant weapons, adamant armor available. And if they can't afford to buy it, they can make it themselves. They can also hone weapons and armor. So you can make your saber a +1 saber. You can make your body armor +1 as well with your artificer. So that is really one of the key master skills in the game that you're going to want to get. Probably more than one artificer. You're probably going to want 3 or 4 just to, as you level up, you can start just improving your own weapons and creating your own stuff.
Pretty much guarantee that you always have adamant weapons.
Exactly. And that's, if you're an old D&D player or something, the dark elves always had the best weapons and armor, and that's just kind of a nod to some of the lore, right?
Yeah, very much so. So, and then of course they have different skills, like they could use 2-hand crossbows and little crazy stuff like that. So they cheat. They're dirty and they cheat.
Oh yeah. The leader starts with a trait. The Morrigan starts with a trait called Blight. And anytime she lands a critical hit on an opponent, she can drain 1 point of their ability score and add it to herself for the game. So you're lowering your opponent's ability and increasing your own. So it's really nice. Nick will love it.
That's nice. I mean, I enjoy Tim, talking about, them cheating and all that, with his cheating dogs.
My dogs don't cheat. They're just really fast.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
They are.
So, and then of course they have skills like, typically most people in the game, they have like certain skills that allow you to actually like add +1 or +2 to the injury outcome, because injuries in this game don't happen like other games. There's no hit points where it's like, oh, well, you've reached 0 hit points, you're removed from the game. You actually have to take them from stunned to staggered to wounded, sometimes just straight to wounded. One of the Dark Elven Master skills that I noticed when I was reading through this earlier is actually called Dispatch, which is really disgusting because in Melee, you get to roll 2d6 for injury outcomes, and you pick the best one.
And when you're rolling 2 dice, anybody besides me, I always roll 2 1s, but anybody else besides me rolls a 6 and a 1. So, and if you know the injury table, 6 is what you want to roll every time. That's an automatic wound. So it's just taking that weapon and you're really wedging it in there and digging around. And so Dispatch is a great skill to have.
And then, of course, they also just have the ability to levitate is just one of their general skills that they can do whenever they want to. Well, They have to learn it, but...
And then, so you can imagine where you can levitate and start firing your crossbow, and nobody with a sword can reach you. They got to shoot you out of the sky, and you get a bonus for the elevation. So that's a great one. Their big skill is, before we miss it, is Duelist. And
yes, I was looking at that one.
Now, the thing about Dark Elves is they're for the most part weak. They're kind of a 2 strength where 3 is average, so they're kind of wimpy when it comes to that. And so they've learned to overcome that with the Duelist skill. A majority of the weapons that Dark Elves use can be combined with the Duelist skill, and instead of applying your strength to melee attacks, you apply your agility. And so that's why it becomes important to, have high agilities on these guys and get rid of your sun blindness as quick as you can, because sun blindness penalizes agility. You start to see how it all works together. But you can get a saber is a really common weapon that gives you 2 attacks, and with a nice agility. I mean, my Vindicator has just ripped through people. It's been a lot of fun.
Who needs strength when you could just flip that saber even quicker? So yeah, as far as that goes, there's a lot of similarities, but again, there's a lot that sets them apart and makes them very unique from the common elf. But the one thing that I noticed that they really have that's really cool is a lot of their equipment feels very much like a combination between elf and guild.
Yeah, it's hopefully its own thing, just in the fact that so much of it is adamant. And one of the cool things about adamant is it's unbreakable. And so when you get a horrible oops, you make a horrible mistake in the game, and the oops says your weapon snaps, well, it doesn't, because it's unbreakable. And so that's part of why that extra investment is worth it. Adamant also tends to do more damage, it usually adds +1 to injury as well. So it really starts to pay off as you start to get 4 or 5 warriors with adamant weapons. It takes a while to build up to that, but it really pays off quickly.
Yeah, and then of course they also have lots of poisons.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, you wouldn't expect them to be just the nicest guys in the world. So
no.
They've got, or ladies, I should say, and they have the most powerful poison there is in the game, called the Tears of Erishtea. And that's pretty much going to mean you're going to wound somebody with it. But it may take you a game or 2 to save up enough money to be able to afford a dose. But when you absolutely, positively have to kill one of Nick's paladins, well, there's your chance.
Well, I could definitely see that. However, I do have to ask this, since we're talking about Nick's paladins and the fact he likes to ride horses. Obviously, he can only hire certain horses through his clan, but he's always got the chance of finding other stuff. Is there ever a chance of him being able to get his hands on a Dullahan steed and ride that bad boy into combat as paladin?
There is not. The legends of the Headless Horseman?
Yes.
That's where that comes from. That's one of the skills you can take if you, I don't know if this is going to show up on camera, but if you want to take the job of cutting your head off at some point, you got to be at least 5th level, if I remember right. You can cut your head off, and as you remember, these elves don't die, they become shades. Now you are this Headless Horseman, and you get all these incredible skills with it. You can now pass through walls, and you can, one of the legends is you can, go to any gate, any barred door, and it will instantly open for you. You totally lose the ability of speech, but you do have the thing called the soul harvest, which is just this awful moan that you make, and you can automatically wound somebody once per game with the soul harvest. You're capturing that soul for the goddess Erishtea. And one of the cool things you can do is you can buy your lash made out of human vertebrae and whip people's eyes to blind them, and you can ride your steed around. But none of Nick's paladins are ever going to be able to ride that steed because it too is spectral, and so.
Okay, can I cut one of his paladins' heads off and put the body on the steed?
Sure, you can do anything you want with his head.
Okay, cool. Just as long as we're all clear on what can happen here. It doesn't mean that he's going to be able to ride it willingly, but I can decapitate one of Nick's paladins and put him on the steed.
One of the great things is if you can get one of his steeds healthy and put it on your Dark Elf War Clan. I actually was playing Asylum. That's the bar adventure we were talking about at the beginning, and got the magical tarot cards for one of my dark elves, and one of the things that she got was a orc stone horse, and I gave that to my Morrigan, and you can't believe how powerful a spellcaster she is now that she can do it from horseback at moving at 10 speed and sometimes 20 speed when she gallops because she's tireless. So
that's just disgusting.
Yeah.
Everything about that sounds amazing, and I hate it all at the same time.
Yeah. We were playing a as yet unreleased adventure, which is just a horrible, horrible chase game called The Field of Screams. And she was just having a fun time making people scream.
Nice.
Great beats.
So you also have a couple powerful, just like beasts that the Dark Elves have access to. So you've got like the Kite-Shi, which is a fairy cat, which is pretty gross, actually.
Yeah, I mean it's expensive. I mean you're not going to get one starting out. It's something you're going to save up for. But what makes it kind of cool is it's pretty powerful, and it can go unseen, which is almost like being invisible in this game. And so it can sneak up on people and surprise attack, which is really nasty for a powerful cat. And then the Orb Weaver is literally a giant spider who can spin webs and capture foes, and it's much easier for your dark elves to pick people off when they're entangled in webs.
Yeah, and for being 15 gold, I would say I'd probably want one or two of these Orb Weavers just kind of floating around next to my war clan as I'm playing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's hard to pass up. It's just, especially if you've got good missile attacks.
Yes, very much so. So this thing is going to be going live, well, as of the time of this recording, Thursday the 19th, which is tomorrow. And how long is it going to be going for, Cory?
We're just going to go till, it's 24 days. So that's about the 22nd of May, I think, something like that. So it's a short one, but it becomes a production issue. Hopefully we fund and I can start getting this going. Got coordinating with Reaper Miniatures to supply all the great looking Bones figures. And I'm hoping we hit some stretch goals because you start with 8 of the figures and I've got 24 plans. So if we can hit enough stretch goals, I hope to give everybody every single one of them.
Perfect. And one thing you're doing on this one that you didn't get a chance to do the first time around is you are actually going to be having some retail level Kickstarter backing on this one.
Yeah, we're with the release of Enter Perdition last year, we got into some stores, and shows like yours and have really, raised the awareness. And it's a lot of fun when you've got a bigger group of people. I've got so many people that play in groups of 2 and 3, and they love the game. But when there's 10, 15 people who are really into the game at the game shop, you can constantly switch what adventures you're playing, and you can switch opponents, and it becomes an even more fun tactical game that way too. Yes,
definitely. It's one of those games that I prefer to play it with at least 4 people or more. You can do it 2 to 3, but I definitely like 4 players or more. And then especially if you have multiple people that are playing the game and you get the chance to see how everybody does their war clans a little bit differently, it really makes it a lot of fun. It also makes it challenging when you haven't played somebody 2 or 3 sessions and they're kind of playing along the same level. And you remember what they did the first time.
You don't know what new skills and treasures they've gotten since the last time you played them. So
it's usually not until they hit you with something you go, wait, you could do what now? So
honestly, Tim likes it because then he can hide how much he's cheating.
It's all got to be tracked, every single bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in the roster, right?
Exactly. So
what you should really do, Nick, is you should just say, okay, Tim, I'm going to play your team this game, and I'm going to play. and he's going to play yours and see how he feels.
I'd be okay with that.
That's what he says now.
No, I would actually be okay with that, just to let everybody try out the Wolven, because, well, I'm biased. I like the Wolven. I want people to play the Wolven. But
but we hope that people will sign up for that retail pledge, because basically any of your customers who order the Kickstarter, pre-order the Kickstarter, they'll still get all the stretch goals, but they get out of the shipping that way, because it'll be free shipping to the store once it's produced. And we'll set you up with Enter Perdition and free stuff to get you playing, and usually works out real well.
Right. And exactly how many copies of Enter Perdition are going in that retailer pledge, along with the adding on Daughters of Twilight and everything else?
We'll sit and we'll figure out what makes sense for your store. A lot of people, start out cautiously, and they'll get like a set for the store and maybe a set for retail. And you can hit that pledge level pretty quickly, because what happens a lot of times is one person will buy the set, and then everybody else will just want books. I'm playing Paladins. I want the Paladin book and the campaign rules. And you get a few people to sign up for the Dark Elves and a set or two, and you'll hit that retail pledge pretty easily.
Nice. Yeah, and I know that out of the few stores that you've been in right now, you've actually had a pretty rabid following of fans, just out of the few stores that you got into the first time around, to where they really enjoyed the game and they took off on their own with it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Alan down in Fayetteville was saying that the first Monday night that he had announced that it was going to be Witchborn, they opened the doors at 5:30 and there was already a line out at 5 o'clock waiting to get in. So that's like the greatest story ever, But I think the other thing that helps is I'm pretty accessible for store owners. So they have questions, they want to know quick answers. I can usually get back to them.
Right, exactly. And then, yeah, like you were saying, obviously in this Kickstarter, you're going to have a whole bunch of different goals that unlock for stretch goals. You got the Soul Weaver, you got the Shade, the Kylock, and you've got a lot of other stuff that you have planned as well. And to be honest with you folks, if you're listening to this, the pledge in order to get this thing to fund is not a lot. Cory, what exactly are you looking for?
For $60, you get the basic Daughters of Twilight set, and that's going to come with that nice Dark Elf rule book. We got, if people know, fantasy illustrator Brom. I love the guy. He did the cover for us. So that's beautiful. You're going to get at least 8 Dark Elven miniatures, and a lot of them are going to be exclusives that have never been released by Reaper yet. And so I can't even show exactly what's in the set yet, just because some of the stuff's still on the drawing board, but it's all the sketches and everything I've seen are just awesome. Nice. And then you're going to get the templates and the rosters and that kind of stuff. But we're also going to commission some special purple dice. Everybody loves the premium dice that we do for the game, and so there'll be a set of those in there. And if you want to get an autographed copy, autographed by Brom, of course, that's at the $75 pledge level.
Yeah, that's probably the one I'd want to get into. I'm a huge fan of Brom, so the moment you said he did the cover, I fanboyed a little.
Yeah, I got to meet him, and I got to talk to him quite a bit, and he's just the nicest guy. You can't believe somebody that talented is just so unassuming and so nice, but what a great guy.
Yeah. And then $7,500 is all it takes in order to make sure this thing comes to life and has legs to stand on.
Yep. And for people who didn't get in early, we've got the $199 pledge where you're going to get Enter Perdition, that whole box set that normally sells for $155. You're going to get that plus the Daughters of Twilight. So that's a good entry-level deal. And you'll even get the option to decide at the end on the shipping, do you want to wait and get everything at once, or do you want to get Enter Perdition sooner? And so,
right,
which makes sense. You'll have a lot of fun.
Awesome. And then, so that's pretty much going to cover everything Daughters of Twilight. Now, obviously, the Kickstarter is not live yet, but I'm hoping to have the link up on this the moment that the episode goes live so people can see it on Thursday the 19th when it comes out, and then we can keep chasing it as the campaign progresses. But a lot of people always ask, what do you have planned in the future for the game? Cory, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the future stuff that you're working on right now for the Witchborn?
Yeah, I'm really hoping that every 6 to 9 months I can release a new adventure. As we discuss Nightfall's the next one on the slate. I mean, I really got to program the app and proofread it, and it's done.
Right.
So it's getting close. The next big rule element is War Mage Diary. And right now, War Mage Diary is downloadable as a PDF. But we want to do a Kickstarter for a printed version of the book, and we're going to blow it out bigger and better with tons more spells and everything. But that's optional rules, so you can add spellcasters to your war clan. So that's going to be a big one. And then, Tim, you want to talk about your favorite?
Yeah, then there's the Wolven. So,
overrated.
Whatever, Nick. So anyway, the Wolven themselves are mutant wolves, for lack of better terms. So they cannot speak. I think of it as like a wolf that just shape changes into basically an 8-foot tall, 2-legged humanoid that still has wolfy features. And so they're not werewolves. They are mutant wolves. So as they're first created, they have a transformation that they go through. Whelps typically have a deformity that they go through, unless your deformity ends up giving you awesome stuff. And then the first time that they kill something in a game, they sit out the next game and gain a blooded transformation, which again mutates them even further. And they have a lot of cool skills that go along with them that makes them unique from a lot of the other war clans. At first glance, you look at them and they look like they're really hard to beat, which in some cases, depending upon if you're a smart player, they can be. However, they all have Rancor, which means that when you take one out, you get double the shadow points or experience every time you take one out. So beating up on the Wolven player is actually better for you. Yes, it's risky, but you will level up so much quicker if you keep making his life a living hell. So, and on top of that too, Psyche, they have the worst Psyche in the game, which for searching and things like that, because they have Wolven scent, doesn't affect them as much. However, when it comes time to spells that affect Psyche, like putting them to sleep, very, very easy to do. Causing them to be confused, very easy to do.
Yeah, so they were actually the weakest war clan coming out. And so we've been balancing them, and we think we're close. Except when Tim plays Nick, and then they're overpowered. But
to be fair, on my transformations, my stuff ended up being pretty amazing out of the gate. Like, I was not expecting the transformations I got.
Yep.
And I will point all this out. This happened with no one else around.
Cory saw it all on camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Of course I did.
Every time I roll something for the Wolven, the first thing I do is I show Cory. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
See? Exactly. This is ridiculous. Because every time I roll, it's good.
Well, it's balancing out for how powerful his original war clan was, Nick.
So bad.
Well, so the best part is, Tim, like he was just talking about, they have low psyche, so you can cast spells to like put them to sleep or this or that. He lists all these deficiencies, but your opponents actually have to be this tall to actually do any of this, and when you start, you're not even half that height. So all these weaknesses that they have aren't really weaknesses.
Yep.
So that's really what it was. It's like, but Tim, I can't do any of those things. Well, I didn't say you could. I just said we were weak to it.
Yeah, you can't do them yet.
You almost need to read his Wolven book there, Nick, and and figure out how you're going to attack him.
Well, it's just, let him find the Witchborn, and then he takes care of him.
Yeah, exactly.
I kick my own ass.
You guys got a copy of Wailing Citadel? Get him into Wailing Citadel.
Oh God. I am not high enough level with my guys yet to do that. But it's again, like I'm really excited for the Wolven to come out, because obviously with that one, you've got an adventure that you're working on too. I don't want to talk about that one too much, but that's another adventure that's actually specifically designed to include Wolven encounters in it. Do you want to talk about that one just briefly? I know it's still in the works.
Yeah, it's called Seven Sleeping Kings, and it's basically you're up north where the Wolven hail from, and there's almost like these canyons, fissures in the earth that allow this green mist to seep through, and that's what caused the mutations in the wolves, and can cause mutations in other people too if they accidentally touch it. And you get caught in the Wolven hunting grounds, and a couple of your party are missing, and you quickly are searching to find your missing party members, but you also uncover what may be the lost city of the Ruzan, which were the first dwarves, and danger ensues.
Yes, and spoiler alert, dwarves and Wolven do not get along.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. And that's a very, very high-level adventure. That one you probably need to be 500 to 600 points to even consider playing it. And it's actually one of the most fun co-op games there is, just because you're up against such brutal stuff. It's fun to team up with somebody to have a chance.
Fantastic. Well, Nick, I know that you hate so much everything Wolven, and so we'll stop talking about them now. But I am actually really excited to see Daughters of Twilight come out, because I've been reading on them. I haven't had a chance to play test them myself, but seeing the development of them along the way, I'm glad to finally see this coming to fruition.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a popular one. We've got the forum on Facebook called Talk Witchborn. Everybody's welcome to join. And we did a little vote last year, gave them 8 project ideas. And I said I could probably do 2 to 3 of the Kickstarters this year. And number 1 by far was Daughters of Twilight. So everybody wants to try out the Dark Elves. So this will be your chance.
Yeah, because Wolven was on that list, and I ran a campaign to vote Wolven off of it completely.
Yeah, I think the only one that gave it a vote was Tim. So.
Yeah, I was, because somebody came in there and decided to rig the election.
It was campaigns, possibly campaign promises.
Oh, yeah. So getting back to it, Daughters of Twilight launches Thursday, April 19th. By the time this episode comes out, I'm hoping to have it out right around that time frame. If not the standard time of launching every Monday, it will be going on a few days. Get a chance, jump on, check it out. If you have not played the Witchborn before, I recommend this is a great way of getting into the game, especially at that $199 value if you're a single player. Because again, like you get everything for the game with the miniatures all in one box, plus you get the Daughters of Twilight when it comes out. Retailers, this game is actually done very successful for the few stores that it's been in so far. Take a chance, play the game. If you've got people that love Dungeons and Dragons, and you always have those groups that always seem to fall apart, or a few people that kind of bounce out here and there because of life reasons, this is a great game to help fill that gap so people do not leave the table. This is a game that allows them to still sit down and play a game during that D&D time, even though they don't have all of the players. So that's why I've always That's why I've always recommended the Witchborn to anybody that loves that feeling of like that story-based miniatures game, or if they're really looking for that miniatures RPG hybrid. So yeah, definitely check this bad boy out. Nick, is there anything else you want to throw in there? Because I just fanboyed all over this episode.
No, I don't want to ruin the fanboy.
I couldn't have said it better. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Well, on that high note, this is where we're going to end this episode. That will wrap up episode 110 of Skirmish Supremacy. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. To see more of the antics that Nick and I do, you can check us out on Facebook at Skirmish Supremacy. We also have Twitter, which we can be reached at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently Skirmish Supremacy does not fit in Twitter. And if you want to email us directly, you can reach us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Thanks for listening.